Hello everyone, Stevenet here with another update from the Avalanche ecosystem. Today we have another very special interview. I have Atvanguard here with me from the Hubble team. Hello, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Stevenet, for helping me, having me here, and then super excited to be here. Basically a great platform to talk to Avalanche folks, community, and these are some of the things that we try to do as much as we can.
Yeah,
so thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you. Hubble, of course, has been around as the Discord, on Twitter, within Avalanche community for quite a long time. So very happy to have you around, because it also means that we are going probably to see more of Hubble very soon. But first of all, maybe you can give a little introduction to yourself and the rest of the Hubble team.
Yeah, 100%. So I've been in the crypto space for 4 years now. Worked at some good projects, and then after that started a DeFi project of my own. And then, and that project was called DeFi Dollar. And then after a point, we decided that we wanted to pivot into something that we thought would really work. And that's what led to Hubble. So that's me. Other than that, there is Kepler, who takes care of marketing, community, and all the shit posting on Twitter that you see. And then we have Zeruki, who's our designer. We have Nickname, who's our front-end engineer. And we have A Square, who's another smart contract engineer. This is mostly the core team. And then Hubble team is a total of 9 people. So there are 4 more hires that we made. And we like to vibe with each other when we're working.
Cool. You have like an office together, or?
No, we are fully remote.
Remote. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
We work across 4 time zones.
It's the beauty of crypto, right? That you can. It's very international. You can just work with everyone, and I mean this interview I think is also across time zones. And the community will watch it in their own time zones, and that's the beauty of it.
Totally. I was speaking to a friend about it, and it's great how crypto is basically about having this level platform where, there are no judgments based on race, your monetary background, your, skills is the only thing that counts, right? Nothing else. Yeah. So I think it's a great level playing field.
It's like everybody hides behind like not everyone, but a lot of people hide behind a profile picture in NFT. You just don't know them aside from, the picture that they gave and the name that they gave and how they interact with the community. And that's one of the beauties of crypto. And of course, you're playing into that with the Hubble Space Cats as well. Maybe we park that until a little bit later. Because I'd love to hear in your own words, like, what is Hubble all about? What does it do? What problems does it solve? Why are you here?
Sure. So Hubble is, in one line, it's a derivatives protocol on Avalanche, right? And we are building perpetual swaps based on AMMs. What that means is you can take leverage. And the feature set that we are trying to build within Hubble is actually a bit unique, right? So our vision is actually having something that looks like a decentralized version of FTX, right? And when I say FTX, it means that Hubble is multi-collateral. So you can have several coins as collateral that you can use as margin and then use them to trade. That is one thing. The second feature is cross-margining, right? So you don't need to have like isolated positions. If your BTC position is profitable and your AVAX position is not, then they will cancel out each other. You won't get liquidated. And if they are profitable, you can take more leverage on that, right? Be more of a degen. And then, so these are 2 of the key features. And the third one is we are building this on AMMs as opposed to centralized limit order books, which I would say is not the first. It's inspired from Perpetual Protocol, a great team. But then, yes, we have AMM that is different from Perpetual Protocol, and our margining system, liquidation system is totally unique and new. So these are the 3 features that we are basing Hubble off on. Basically make it easy to lose money.
Yeah, go harder, right? It's essentially, it's not a motto, but it's kind of what, because it's what perpetual swaps are kind of about, right? Like, if I understand correctly, it's leverage, and it's basically, superpowering your trade. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's leverage, right? So leverage, of course, it's risky. It magnifies your gains and it magnifies losses. But of course, the thing about decentralized finance is you should be able to do with your money or like whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, like if you know about the risks, if you're aware about the risks of leverage, then yes, you are that user group who should, maybe take leverage and then just to, like express what your market sentiment is at that point in a more supercharged manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say it's built on AMMs and it's multi-collateral, are we talking about your own AMM, or is it like you're leveraging Pangolin, Trader Joe, other kinds of liquidity?
No, we are not leveraging liquidity from anywhere else. We'll have our own liquidity. The AMM that we are using is of Curve V2, though we are not integrating with them directly because that sort of acted as the inspiration for the swapping part. But then we have built many features on top of it. So the Curve V2 math takes care of the swapping logic, but that's just like the 5% of what Hubble is about, right? And then the margining system, the liquidation system, it's totally like custom built. Yeah.
And when you say multi-collateral, does it mean also mean that I can give you any collateral, or how do you choose like which collaterals you accept, and like which tokens I can long? Like say for example, I have I am an influencer. I make a shitty dog coin, and I want to long it at Hubble. Can I just do that, or is there something in place that says no, you cannot just do that?
Yeah, you cannot just do that like out of the box. So because we are building the system, at least in the first iteration, it needs to be super safe, right? So the collaterals will be very specific, like USDC and AVAX. And with governance proposals, it's very easy to onboard new collaterals. It doesn't take any extra work. This is about the collaterals. The second thing is about the markets, right? That is a separate process in itself. So you could maybe have like a Joe market or a Pangolin market, so that's the idea. And the reason that we have to be careful about whitelisting collateral is, because they have to be liquid.
Yeah.
Because once a person is getting liquidated, there needs to be a market where their collateral can be seized and sold in the open markets. Right? So that is definitely required.
Yeah.
But my thesis for Hubble long term is basically the fact that if you can have decentralized markets, perp markets for long tail assets, this is where decentralized exchanges will win over centralized ones. So once we get this right with like blue chip assets, the idea is to build a factory out of it where users or a community can spin up their own Hubble, right, for their own tokens, so that their community can participate in it.
So like if I have a project, if I have a project and it's decently well and I want it listed on Hubble, I can at some point just kind of spin one of those up.
Exactly. That is the eventual goal, not right now. So you can think of it like a Rari kind of a thing, but for perpetual swaps. So you can have your own isolated pools. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our vision. And that's what I think will bring the, adoption of decentralized perps exchanges.
And how is that for risk? Like, let's say you list something that you say it needs to be liquid. Maybe at some point the project which owns a lot of its own liquidity takes its liquidity off of Trader Joe. Like how does it get managed?
Yeah, totally. So there are two things here. One is the fact that, user who is trading in a particular market needs to be aware, right? Where does the liquidity come from, right? And if you're trading in any of the long tail assets, it's definitely a risk, right? So you have to be careful. But the second thing is at the technical level, we do have some checks. So a liquidity provider has to wait up to 2 days to remove their liquidity. They can't just do that like in an instant. And this is just, like the Hubble team being aware of the risks and trying to mitigate them at a technical level if we can. But that said, building for long tail assets, it's not our vision for V1 right now. So we want to build this for AVAX, for you to long and short AVAX and Avalanche specific, native coins. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, forgive me, I failed my corporate finance exam 3 times, so this is not entirely my strong suit, but in a trade, there must be a counterparty, right? Is this just people longing and shorting against each other with like the funding rates thing? Or is there like market makers? I think I read something around that. Like who is the counterparty if I start a trade on Hubble?
Yes, there's something called makers. And these are basically liquidity providers who are adding liquidity to the AMM. In theory, it's possible to do perpetual swaps with purely virtual liquidity. This is what Perp V1 tried out. right? But then there were like severe shortcomings in the model that have been identified, and that's why even Perp team decided to move away from purely virtual liquidities. It makes it easier to bootstrap markets, but for us, yes, there are makers. They'll be providing liquidity to the AMMs, and they become the counterparties to all the trades that are happening.
Yeah. And do they earn anything for that? Can anyone become one, or are they like professional makers?
No, anyone can add liquidity. It's just like being a Uniswap pool. Anyone can add liquidity. The good thing is you can add liquidity on leverage. So if you have $1,000, you can add liquidity worth $5,000, and then earn fees on that, right? So this, I would say, is probably one of the most unique features.
That's especially for dollars. It's interesting, right? Because like, unless you're in USD, sadly at the wrong time, that should be pretty stable, and then you leverage it up for more yield.
You're still taking impermanent loss by being in the market. So it's not a risk-free leverage, right? You are still expressing your view on the market, being a maker. So as long as you expect that there is a lot of volatility in the market, then there will be a ton of trading fees. But if the price moves in either direction too quickly, then yes, you do take the risk of having that impermanent loss in the sense that your trading fees might not cover for your loss. So yes, that risk is definitely there.
Understood. So the makers, they earn trading fees. You also have your own token, I believe, at least as part of the Hubble Space Cat NFTs. I think I have 3 of them, which are beautiful. I believe I read something. There will be at some point a token emission to the hUSD holders. Is that correct?
We don't know about that, because even though we don't have a token, we are pretty decentralized in the sense that most of the decisions are put to a DAO vote, right? So even before a product launch, we have had 15 votes based like for our fundraising, for some of our treasury management. So for example, even I am not in our seed round raise multisig, right? So we are decentralized that way. Only one person from our team is on that sig. So yes, the idea is we will put this to a vote, whether there is going to be a drop, if yes, what percentage. But I do imagine that, because Hubble Space Cats acts as a proxy for governance power in Hubble right now, it seems very natural to translate that, right, when the token does come.
Cool. Do you already have a ticker for the token, or do you already know what the utility is going to be, or is it all to be voted on by like governance still?
No, the thing is, we haven't actually thought about the token much, because the team is very much aligned
Just
on,
focus on the utility
launch. Yeah, and only once we get some product market fit for the platform will we think about launching a token, because personally, I believe launching a token too soon is the root of all evil in this space. So yeah, like we haven't even started putting any efforts there.
It's good to know, I think. In the meantime, you do have the Hubble Space Cats, the NFTs.
Yes.
Like I said, I have 3. I think I got 1 just for being, an early community member, and then I think I picked 2 up in Barcelona, together with the T-shirt. And I also got, which I think is fairly rare, from Lost Worlds, the hoodie.
Yeah, we just have 25 of these.
Yeah, and I have 1 of them. Yeah. Very comfortable, but it's way too warm right now, so I'm just wearing a T-shirt.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, good swag. I think some people saw I have on my guitar, I have the sticker, and my girlfriend has like a bunch of the stickers on the laptop. So big fans of the swag. So thank you very much for bringing those to Barcelona.
Well, the Hubble team has been looking forward to basically a Sedanet live concert. So
I always say I own a guitar. I never say I play guitar, because I'm honestly not very good at it. But I like to think that one day I'll be good at it. So I practice every once in a while.
Oh yeah, your guitar looks awesome. Yeah, all the stickers and everything.
Yeah, it's honestly currently more of a it looks good thing than it plays good thing. But anyway, you've got the Space Cats. Those currently are the proxy for voting and shit, for governance. I've participated in a few of the votes, and I've gotten like some NFTs back for it as well. Like what's the process, the thought process behind that? Like why? I mean, I think it's great because it keeps the community engaged. Is that also the thought behind it, or was there some other like idea that started that?
Yeah, actually, this is not how the Hubble Space Cats project, HSC project started. So there were some community members there were 3 or 4 designers in our community, really active. They said that, okay, while all the devs are doing their thing, they're building Hubble, why don't we build this NFT project just for like PFPs, so that, like people just can start creating some hype around it on Twitter. And this is how the project started. So none of the core team members were participating in it. Some community members were voluntarily designing these NFTs and everything, right? But then some of us were on a little offsite. And then we thought that, and especially me and Kepler were having a discussion around it. We thought that we are very much aligned on making Hubble a community-driven perps protocol, right? But then we also don't want to launch a token very soon, right? So how do you find a sweet spot where you can do governance, like decentralization, without having a token? And we came up, like suddenly we had this great idea and eureka moment where we thought, okay, like this HSC project is being worked upon. It's going to be completed in another week. How about we use this for governance, right? So after that, it became into totally something else. PFPs, yes, but then the community really liked this idea, especially the people who were working on it, because for them, it was like they felt much more fulfilled for the efforts that they were putting into the project. And then, like it has been a great success since then. So the first HSC airdrop was to 1,200 testnet users. And the good thing about it is, like, in one of our votes, there was a 60% turnout for our community, right? And average is, I think, 30 or 40%. So that I would say, like we really like that, because the vision that HSC started, well, not actually started with, but the vision that we were building towards, we are kind of realizing that, right? So, and we have this Hubble sub DAO called Hubbleverse DAO, who does all the design work and everything. And it's kind of their thing, right? And it's a core part of Hubble now. So it's very exciting to see it become that.
I find it such an interesting story to hear, because I strongly associate Hubble with its Space Cats and also the general artworks and the other NFTs that you get every once in a while. So it's very interesting for me to hear that it's kind of started up as a community initiative.
Yes.
Also because when I think about Hubble compared to like some other new projects that every once in a while want to do something with me, like one of the reasons I really like Hubble is because it has built its own community, and it is such a big part of it. So there's like such an interesting like how that developed and like how you got where you are. I think it's super cool.
Thank you so much. Like Kepler and Dorlans from our team are basically community wizards. They're just like great people to be a part of a community, help it grow organically. They have great ideas around it.
Yeah. One other token that I just saw like retweets of the Hubble Twitter account recently, and that retweet mentions hUSD. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? What is that?
Sure. So when you're building a multi-collateral system, right, it's an imperative to have an internal unit of accounting, because let's say it's a multi-collateral system, I deposit AVAX, and now I have to pay the trading fee, right? Just to pay that $2, $3, $4 of trading fee, it becomes very much complicated if you do not have a unit of accounting, right? Do you sell that AVAX on the spot, or do you just deduct that AVAX from the margin and you keep it in your inventory? In that case, you're taking exposure to AVAX price movement. And imagine there are 10 other coins as collateral, right? So all of that becomes like very difficult to manage. So for any multi-collateral system, it needs a single unit of accounting, right? So hUSD is basically, it's exactly like FTX's USD. So all your trading fee, your liquidation fee, your realized P&L is calculated in hUSD, right? Because dollars are just easier to work with. So it's possible that you might have a negative hUSD balance, right? Because I deposited AVAX, then I traded, and I paid some trading fees. I have -5. It's totally possible, right? So it is simply a unit of accounting. The thing is, a person who has a negative hUSD balance is expected to pay it ASAP, right? Yeah. So some of the checks that we have around this is like, even if you have -1 hUSD balance, you can't take any of your collateral out, even if that's like 100K, right? So these are some of the things. Yeah.
So if there is ever a big downturn and you have a big long position, you better be sure that you have your hUSDC balance up to date.
Exactly. You have to settle it because someone else. So if you have -1, someone else has a +1, right? So that +1 is counting on you to repay your debt. so that they can withdraw their profit, right? So it needs to be managed that way.
Cool. Yeah, and they cannot withdraw it until they. Would there ever be an issue like if someone just refuses to repay it and like their collateral goes like way down? Could that be an issue?
Totally. So let's say you have $100 worth of collateral, and your HESC balance is somewhere minus 80. Okay. In that case, you're still safe because you have like $20 worth of collateral still. But if, let's say, your collateral is dropping and it comes to around somewhere $85 and you have an obligation of $80, so this is where a liquidation starts, right? So a person, a liquidator, can pay $80 and take your $85 worth of collateral. Yes. So this is very much a part of our design.
Yeah. And do you already have your own, on the topic of liquidations, like are you running your own liquidation spot? Are you expecting the community to launch their own, or both? Or?
Yeah, so we have a bounty live, 3 bounties for $5,000 each and 2 HSCs for community to build a liquidator bot. And I think some people are at it, but I can't be sure. So yes, like we have an official version of liquidation bot as well, which we will be running. Yes.
Cool. And just we haven't covered this yet, but I think it is very relevant for this. Are you running on C chain, or are you going to go run on your own subnet, or what's the plan there?
We're running on C chain, and we have been exploring subnets very actively. And the kind of a roadblock that is not easy to solve is the fact that Chainlink doesn't have feeds on any subnets, right? And cross subnet communication is still not there. I think projects like Layer 0 are probably working on it, right? So if there is a way for you to read Chainlink feeds from the C chain on your subnet, we can do this right away, right? We actually dedicated a week or 2 to this.
Yeah.
Or basically convince Chainlink node operators to push feeds to our own subnet. But I think that's probably, like a whole another battle.
Yeah, that's going to take
and that's why, exactly. So that's why we have decided to put off launching on a subnet for now. Yeah.
Very interesting. I think when you think about other players in this space that you're in, GMX, EMDX, Arrow maybe? Do you consider Arrow to play in the same space?
Arrow is building an options protocol, I believe. In fact, we are going to work with them together to be able to hedge positions. So if you're underwriting options at one place, you can hedge your positions with perps. So they are very much a part of our our play.
That's very interesting.
Exactly. So both the teams are looking forward to that collaboration. But yes, EDMX and GMX are some of the players that are in the derivatives protocol space on Avalanche as well. Yeah. So they need to watch out for us.
Do you already have? I think you mentioned a little bit like you're working on an AMM model, multi-collateral. Is that like what the differences are mostly between you and them, or is there something else, or is it more similar than that maybe?
All the 3 protocols are quite different, I would say, in that sense. So EDMX is very similar to Perp V1, where they're using like fully virtual pools. That design is known to have some problems, but they can be solved, right? So if EDMX team, EMDX team is working on those challenges, and those are like a known list of problems, like where that design goes wrong. So if the team is working on that, then that's great, right? It will definitely work out for them. It becomes much easier to bootstrap a new pool because you don't need like real liquidity, right? If you can solve the challenges. And I believe Drift protocol on Solana is probably getting into some of these improvements. So yes, maybe there's some inspiration from there. For GMX, on the surface level, it might seem that it's quite similar to Hubble. But in my opinion, GMX is more like margin trading, right? So there, when you take a 5x long position, let's say you take a 5x ETH long, then there's actual 5 ETH in the liquidity provider pools that is locked, right? It's not virtual liquidity. It's actually like a leverage margin trading, right? So in that sense, yeah, I would say GMX is more like margin trading, and they don't have an AMM. They have an Oracle-based thing for pricing, which I'm not saying is bad. It's just a different design. Both of the designs would have their own pros and cons, right? So if you have an Oracle model to price assets, your exchange basically becomes a lagging indicator to the price, right? Because let's say there's some price action happening, and only when the Oracle pushes it, only then GMX starts pricing the assets that way. Meanwhile, there could be arbitrage opportunities, and you're taking away those profits from liquidity providers. And if there are no arbitrage opportunities, then the price is just stale, right? And then they would lose out on, like, traders would trade, and then they would lose out on trading fees. So these are some of the challenges, but of course, like, there are pros as well, in the sense that it's difficult to build your own AMM market, right? So yeah, and there are also some key differences in the way GMX does liquidity provisioning. I can get into that if you like.
Yeah, sure. Well, maybe let's not go super deep into GMX. So maybe on a higher level, keep it on a higher level. What I was actually thinking about is, like, how do you like manage that the AMM that the balance of the pools, right, in the AMM that you're running is staying up to date? So it's also arbitrage, or like if that's the same as Trader Geo and the same as Pangolin and the same as Binance, like, do they need to balance with arbitrage, or is that kind of not connected in the same way?
That's the entire idea. So assuming an efficient market, someone has to arbitrage. In fact, that is where a lot of the trading volume does come for any exchange.
Yeah.
So if there are price dislocations between Binance, FTX, and Hubble, we expect that someone has to fulfill that arbitrage, and people will, because there's real money to be made.
Yeah. That's where all the positive sum MEV profits come from, right?
Totally.
Cool. I don't know. Do you want to say something about GMX? I don't want to go super deep into, like, the differences per se, or like what they're doing specifically per se. But if it's an interesting difference that's relevant, I'd be curious too.
A difference that we are often asked about is the fact that when you LP in GMX, you are basically LPing in all the markets. Whereas in Hubble, you have to choose a market that you want to LP in, right? So you choose that I want to put my money liquidity in AVAX perp or USD perp. So in the GMX case, it's like easier to bootstrap liquidity, right? But it gives any person to express, like, less expression power, in the sense that which markets do they want to add liquidity in. Whereas for us, market maker or any retail user can express where they want to take in permanent loss, but then it becomes harder for Hubble to bootstrap liquidity in every market. So some of the trade-offs.
Cool. Let's maybe, because I've heard that you have prepared sort of a demo for us, and I think it's something that a lot of people are always very interested in. Shall we go to the demo right now? Take a look at it.
Totally, let's do that. Can you see it?
Yes, perfect.
So this is actually a private version of the Hubble testnet. It's not live anywhere, right? So the demo basically looks like this is your margin account, right? So you can either deposit hUSD. Well, actually, before that, this is the hUSD page where you convert your USDC to hUSD, right? So hUSD is a wrapper over USDC. But when you're redeeming your hUSD for USDC, it's a little bit tricky because there is a waiting queue, right? For the reason that I discussed earlier, because let's say I have -1, you have +1. You want to withdraw, but I haven't repaid as yet, right? So in that case, you'll have to. System, so it's just a matter of, like, waiting. So this is where you wrap your hUSD, and once you have that, you go to the wallet page. You can deposit here, right? So I have some hUSD. So I'm just depositing some hUSD as collateral. And then, of course, the second collateral that will be available at launch is AVAX. So you can do that as well, right?
One of my favorites.
It will be a single transaction. Yeah, all of our favorites. So once you have this collateral, so right now I have a total collateral that's worth $532 between my hUSD and deposited AVAX. And once you have this, you go to the markets page. AVAX is the market that we'll be starting with at launch. You can take a long or a short position here. So I already have a short position. So if I want to increase my short, let's say, this is where it happens. So right now my account leverage is, where can I see that? 1.63. And if I short basically increase my short position, then my leverage will increase. And we show that here. So the maximum account leverage that you can take is 5x at launch. But this is just a variable. Like if the exchange is stable, we can increase it.
Yeah.
And you start getting liquidated at 10x, right? So there's still some amount of time for you to make a loss before you start getting liquidated.
Yeah, it's not immediate 1 cent down. Sorry, you're
totally, totally. Because I would imagine many people would totally do that.
Hey, we're all degens down, deep down.
So yeah, that transaction is in process, and then when the price goes up and down, you see an unrealized P&L. You can close your position, basically to realize your P&L, right? Yep. This is one other thing. So this is what most people are familiar with. One interesting thing that I would like to talk about is insurance fund. So this is actually decoupled from the markets in the sense that insurance fund will attract a totally different kind of user profile, right? Mm-hmm. So insurance fund, let's say you're the kind of person who doesn't know anything about futures, doesn't want to trade. Insurance fund is a way for you to earn yield on stable coins. Okay. So you deposit your hUSD here. Yeah. Insurance fund has $5,700 right now, right? What is your benefit of depositing here? It is the fact that 33% of the trading fees and 50% of the liquidation fees are paid to insurance fund in stable coins, right? So you're making yield on stable coin.
So it could be a fairly good way to earn, some
exactly.
yield on the stable.
Exactly. But because you're having some yield, it's not risk-free. Mm-hmm. The risk is that if the exchange did not liquidate the position in time, right, and then they're underwater, then insurance fund has to pay the deficit.
Yeah.
Right. So that is your risk. So yes. So there's hUSD, then you have the insurance fund, then you have the wallet, and finally you have the trading page. And I miss one of the most important things is this page for makers where you provide liquidity, right? And then liquidity providers get 66% of the trading fees.
Yes.
So yeah, this is all the sort of things that you can do on Hubble.
And when you add liquidity, since I see here that there's like a long/short in the maker's position, you also take a position when you add liquidity, or?
Exactly. So let's say I'm the maker and I add liquidity. Okay. And then you are a trader. You come and take 5 AVAX long. Then because I'm your counterparty, I will end up taking a 5 AVAX short. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So I am your counterparty here. This is actually the key difference from perpetual V1 design, where they have purely virtual pools, but this one, there are actual real people taking counter positions. So there's actually less chance of like the market blowing up.
Yeah, because there is that makes sense to me. I always worry about that with like virtual things. Like okay, but like if there's an actual counterparty, it's all money flushing around in the system, right? It's nothing.
Exactly, they are paying each other trading fee. Paying each other trading fees, funding fees, unrealized P&Ls. Yeah,
cool.
All of that. So if there are 100 makers, 100 makers will share the 5 ETH. The 5 AVAX short position, right? So then your position will be just 0.05 short, which is something like the case here. So my impermanent position is actually my share in the counter position is just 0.2 AVAX, whereas the open interest is 1,000 AVAX, right? So yeah, this is the idea.
You just take a small share of the risk of the entire pool.
Yeah. So these are the bunch of things that you can do.
No, sorry, I need confirmation. I failed it 3 times. I told you. Awesome. Yeah, and I always really like the color scheme as well. I mean, it's slightly irrelevant maybe, but I like the purple.
Yeah, no, we have tried to make it trippy, even though like some people tell me that serious traders are not going to like this. And then my question is like, why are serious traders so serious? Like, do they not like to have fun?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. Yeah, we are trying to be a little bit bold on that.
I think it's cool, but not branding advice. I don't know. Super though, like, and I see you refer and earn. Is there also going to be a referral program?
Yeah, there's going to be a referral program at launch. So the good thing is like Hubble delayed their launch because of the market conditions. But the thing is, during all this time, we have built several new features. So we were in fact not going to launch with like AVAX as collateral because that needed like more work. And we planned to do that in like V 1.1. But then we have had the time to build a referral program, to build a multi-collateral system, like a more efficient liquidation bot. So yes, there's going to be a referral code. You can create your code here. I've already created one, but yeah, like you got your URL, you can share this around. And when someone, use your referral link, they're going to get discounts on trading fee and you're going to get a part of their trading fees. So usually how referral programs work.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's always nice when you refer someone, they also get a benefit. I always feel like really bad if like you get referral codes that are just like, yeah, you get nothing. It's like, okay.
No, I think that's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everyone who's going to watch this later, use mine. Any idea? I mean, I'm not sure this may be too much alpha, but I haven't seen any announcement yet about when Hubble goes live other than soon. Is there anything you can say about it or not yet?
Yeah, we're actually super close to announcing a launch date. We are just aligning all the stars, adding some more tests, making sure that liquidation bot works nicely. Also talking to some partners, market makers, and having a conversation about, if they would be interested in adding liquidity. So yeah, like that is some of the things that we're aligning, but we would have a launch date for everyone listening to this, like very soon.
Okay. So keep an eye on Twitter or the Discord, I imagine. Then maybe like coming towards the end, you already said Hubble launching soon. We do not know exactly yet. Are the initial collaterals, are they going to be AVAX and USD? Is that right?
Yes, hUSD and AVAX. Yes.
If there's any governance vote, people need hSCs, Hubble Space Cats, NFTs. Is there any way still for them to get it, or?
Oh yes, part-time contributors are getting Hubble Space Cats every month. So all the contributors, whether they're contributing in forms of like illustrations, any designs, any community work, like basically all of this is like an umbrella thing under like Hubbleverse DAO. So Hubbleverse DAO has its own quota of developer mining. So if you're adding value to Hubble in any way, then you're earning these HSCs, all the time.
Awesome, that's good to know. They are nice in my opinion. So you can also just get them for the art. So it's just like, since I'm a bit busy, that's kind of why I have them. But I have voted on a few of them. Anything else people can already do to get involved, or is that like it? Wait for launch, maybe get a Hubble Space Cat.
I think the one thing that is lacking is we don't really have community members that are contributing on protocol discussions, right? So I think there's huge alpha there. If you can, like, people can jump to our Discord, review our design, or maybe like write educational content around it. I think there's definitely some alpha in there. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Don't ask me. Like I said, once again, filled it 3 times. But awesome. Then I think, Atvanguard, thank you so much for watching, for coming today, everyone at home. Thank you so much for watching, of course. Any last closing thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I mean, just like I am looking forward to the launch as much as like everyone else in the Avalanche communities. So very pumped for that. Also a little bit nervous because we have been building for 7 months, and we want to do right by the community. So just like watch out for Hubble, and when it does launch, like use it, give us feedback. Also, our incentives program is going to be live from day 1, even though Hubble Token only comes from, like later. But then you're going to be, yes, but then you're going to be earning Hubble tokens by trading or by adding liquidity from day 1, right? Super. So, and that is announced. There's no mystery around it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. And again, thanks to everyone for watching. If you got this far, I think some great alpha. I love Hubble for like their community and their artworks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm very excited to see what Perpetual Futures will bring to us. I'm sure we'll hear more about you in the future. But for now, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. And goodbye.